What's up, everybody? It is the best 25 to 30 minutes in local housing news in America, right here, 4 o'clock local time, Pacific time, that is, in Arizona. I know we don't change for daylight savings times. We are weird, but we are in Pacific time, and it's 4 o'clock. It is time for Everything Phoenix, and we are diving right in on what is the housing market, the flavor for the housing market for this week. So we're going to jump in and we're going to talk about some things that are pretty interesting right now. What is happening with supply and demand? As we know, supply and demand make up this thing called the housing market. And if values go up, but they go down. But if you're watching the replay, before we jump in, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you something I've never shown before in just a few seconds. Never shown before. But I think it's going to be valuable because it puts into perspective maybe a lot of things for some of you. Now, if you're live, you wouldn't mind telling me where you're watching from. I'd love to know that, right? It helps curate the algorithm to help us provide the best content possible. And if you don't mind liking us and subscribing, that'd be amazing too. Now, if you're watching a replay, comment below and let us know what you think of this topic. I'm going to supply some data because, as you know, on this show, it's data over drama all the time. I know some of you guys like some drama, and every once in a while you got to have some drama, like on that thumbnail for the YouTube live. You got to have a little drama, right? Because that's what people like to an extent. But remember, emotion makes you actually feel a certain way about a topic that may or may not be true. But data will and logic will help you actually ascertain what the best decision might be. Okay, so without further ado, we're gonna jump in here. But what's up, Rick? To watching from Las Vegas, man. It's about to be summertime in the desert, right? And you guys are there as well. But Vegas is a little bit cooler than Phoenix. Not by much, but a little bit. But I love Las Vegas. Thanks, Rick, for tuning in. I appreciate it. I'm going to share my screen, guys, and check this out. I'm going to get right to it, and we're going to have a little conversation about perspective. I'm not saying it's good or bad, but it just is what it is. And let's go from here. So here we go. I'm going to jump in here. Now, this is the Crawford report, right? This is the real deal for local housing, data in the Phoenix area. Okay, so here we go. It says for buyers at the top, if you can read that, for buyers. Okay, now there's a lot of talk about sellers, right? Oh my gosh, it's going to be horrible for sellers because the market is crashing, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, there's some truth to some of that, right? It is not great out there when it comes to appreciation, and it's not great when it comes to demand. But no one really talks about the buying angle of this. They really don't. Maybe it's still not a good time to buy. We talk about a falling knife. Maybe it isn't. In your neighborhood, in your zip code, maybe it is. There are places where it is still a good time. I read an article about Philadelphia right now, and in Philadelphia, there was a couple trying to buy a house in the suburbs, right? And they were, talking $400,000 or less, so price points matter as well. But they were having multiple offers on houses in Philadelphia. Now, this is not Philadelphia; this is Phoenix, but nonetheless, there are different markets, there are different neighborhoods within markets that are always different than others. Rick, what's going on? 95 degrees in Sacramento, so not only in Phoenix. Oh, man, no doubt about it. I'd rather, yeah. It's not even 95 here right now. It's about to be soon, but it's not. It's close. We had 100-degree weather week about a week ago, and then it cooled back down in like the 80s, low 90s, but it's getting up there to 95. And listen, for May right now, being in the low 90s, early top or high 80s, I'll take it all day long, right? Okay, so now let's jump back to what I was giving you a sneak peek of here right now. For buyers, check this out. I'm going to read part of this because it's very, very important. I'm going to explain this graph to you in a second, okay? Here we go. In April, there was a crisis of crises headlines, right? All the headlines, all the clickbait, spurred by unexpected tariffs and market volatility. In the end, the result was that mortgage rates, they rose from 6.6 back up to 7.1%, which frankly is nothing new for the housing industry because we've been around 7% now for almost 2.5, 3 years, okay? In fact, mortgage rates were higher at 7.2% just last January, and even higher May at 7.3%. Without the headline screaming crisis. Okay, now, Kelly, what are you getting at? Stay with me, okay? This is interesting. Unfortunately, the time active buyers froze with indecisiveness and shock, right? This is what happens, resulting in an 18% drop in weekly accepted contracts for 3 weeks after the tariff announcement. Fortunately, the first few weeks of May saw a small recovery as some buyers woke up and got back to business. Okay, but here we go. From the mass chaos erupted, right? negative predictions and all this stuff about the housing market. Here we go. Even Newsweek ran an article suggesting that homes in Greater Phoenix could drop by 20%. Newsweek, 20%. Homes drop. Okay. While buyers could certainly swarm the housing market if property values suddenly dropped by 20%, the chance of that happening is slim. Okay. I'm going to pause there. Now, remember, guys, this is not Newsweek. This is not national media. This is Cromford Report, which only cares about data right here in the Phoenix area. That's it. They don't have an agenda because they got paying customers like myself. Okay. So this is just data. They're saying it's slim. But for Newsweek, that helps sell some magazines and probably some online subscriptions, I would imagine. Let's continue. While Greater Phoenix is slipping further into a buyer's market, which is true, it's not extreme enough for a collapse of that magnitude. Buyer markets over the past 25 years, excluding the Great Recession of 2008 subprime mortgage collapse, saw prices drop between 5 and 11% year over year. And those price declines were enough to pull the market back into a seller's market each time. Punchline, here you go. What does this mean, Kelly? Okay. Questions persist about the degree in which Greater Phoenix homes are overvalued. To answer this, a basis must be established prior, that'd be a smart idea, prior to 2005, 2008, when the bubble crashed. And a typical home, what does that define? The median home sold in Maricopa County was 1,600 square feet in 2000 and 1,900 square feet in 2025. Over 25 years, the average median home in size increased 300 square feet. So a single-family home between 1,500 and 2,000 square feet is typical for this region here in Maricopa County, the Phoenix MSA. Okay, the annual appreciation rates between Q1 of 01 and Q1 of 04 range between 3.6 and 5.3%, with a median of 4.65%. The median rate across 25 years, okay, 25 years is 5.3%. The median rate is 5.3%. A high of 32.9 and a low of negative 41% in the Great Recession, negative 41%, okay? Extrapolating the 4.65% appreciation rate over 25 years supports a price correction, here you go, of 3% by next year. However, one could argue that prices are currently in line with where they would have been with a 5% annual appreciation rate over the 25 years preceding today, below the 5.3 long-term median, and are already undervalued. Either way, the current buyer market support declining prices over the next 3 months, but 20% is extreme, 3% is more reasonable. If mortgage rates move closer to 6.5% or lower, all projections will change. Okay, now I'm going to talk about that graph in 2 seconds. But guys, you hear what they're saying here, right? First of all, if mortgage rates lower down to 6.5%, this all kind of changes. But if they stay around 7 or 6.75%, they stay around 7, then you're looking at a 3% based upon data, not what the national media would tell you, not how you potentially even feel about it. Because guys, if you've been here for 5+ years in Phoenix, 10 years, 15 years, I've been here 21 years selling real estate for 20 years. And in this situation, you feel because you knew where prices were. So you feel, the emotion tells you feel like prices are too high and they should come down. I don't disagree. I'd love to see what it was again in 2013. This is probably not going to happen. You have this thing called inflation, and time goes on, and money devalues over time, okay? But it feels like they're too high. And again, I don't disagree. The feeling is there. However, the data will suggest that if you keep rates around 6.75% to 7%-ish, where they are today at 6.99% to be exact, you're looking at a 3% decline in the median home price given where things are today, okay? So now, could it be worse? It could be. No one's ever, for sure, we're trying to predict the future, but we're predicting it based upon the logic and data, not emotion. That's the difference, okay? So now I go back over here to this screen, this graph, and look what we have here. What this tells you is the blue line right here is the Cromford median appreciation annually over time, okay? And you see it zigzagging because we had the highs, we had the lows, and blah, blah, blah. It does not go in a straight line. This is not in a vacuum. However, if it was somewhat in a vacuum and it was like maybe a Midwest city that had more steady appreciation over the long term or something like that, okay? And you are at the actual median appreciation rate of 4.65% over the past 25 years, that's what it's been, 4.65%. You have the orange line with circles right there, or dots, okay? If you assumed an annual growth of 5%, which is not what happened, 4.65% per year is what happened, then you're looking at a higher number at $450,000 right here. To that end, if you are at 4.65% over 25 years, the median home price would be at $436,516. Now, if you go to the Crawford report, look at where the median home price is on a monthly basis. It actually went, I mean, it's odd, guys. I know, but this is true data. It went up, okay, over the past month. From April to May, it went from $449,900 to $459,000 and went up $10,000. Now, look at the quarterly, okay, quarter by quarter, it went down, which is about where it should be because last reading was at 450, 449 and some change, okay? But if you look at the median, we're looking at 459 today. Now, what I did is I went ahead and did a little experiment, okay? Now, the experiment is this. The experiment is if you said, okay, I don't know if I quite believe that, but I'll roll with you on this, Kelly. 3%, that's where the prices are going. Well, I want to take my 3%. Why would I want to pay 3% higher if I can wait and get 3% lower on the average home out there that I might want to buy? Okay, that's cool. I don't blame you. I would want that too. And you're talking specifically over the next 3 months, the pricing dropping over the next 3 months because we're going into summertime, and that's what they're saying. Now, they said end of the year, but there's another tidbit in there I didn't show you guys that said specifically we think over the next 3 months, that is when most of that decline will probably happen. So let's say you time this correctly, and all this is true, and you hit August. Now, in that scenario, the price decreases 3%, where the median is right now. You're looking at a median price at $459,325, right? I'm going to share my screen and we're going to go back so I don't lose you here on this, right? We're looking at a price of $459,325. That decreases 3%. You're looking at a number of $445,545 for the price. So that saves you in this example about, let's call it roughly $11,000. Well, what does that look like over a 30-year mortgage? That's an interesting fact, right? Because people don't buy prices, they buy monthly payments, right? And that's why the Crawford report says that they think if the rates change to 6.5%, all bets are off. And this could reverse and maybe not go down 3%, but potentially stay even or even go up a little bit by the end of the year. We don't know what rates are going to do yet. Okay. So let's go back and play this game because this is interesting. Now, if you play this game and you look at where the rates are today, right now, they're at 6.99% to be exact. There you go. The 30-year fix, that is. See down here, today, 6.99% unchanged from yesterday at 6.99%. Now, if that's true, and we go to Credit Karma, which is an amortization calculator, and you wait to time this perfectly, 3% off the asking price, let's call it, right? The normal house you want to buy, 30-year mortgage, you're looking at a 6.99 rate. You're looking at a monthly payment before taxes, insurance, or potential HOA dues of $2,930 a month. Okay. Now let's take apples to apples. And let's say you didn't care about timing it perfectly. You see a house today you like, or the price has never actually decreased, as an example, and you jump in and you buy the property and you spend the median price today, which is the $459,325. Well, in that example, you don't get that 3% discount that Crawford's saying is probably going to happen. Okay. And you get a loan amount of, in this example, okay, hold on. This example, we're going to go live here on this one. We're going to go, you're at 459. Okay. 459, get my calculator out, 459, and we're at 325, and you are putting 10% down. Now we're assuming 10% down in this example. Okay. So your loan amount becomes 413. Okay. 392. Now your payment becomes 2747 in this example. Okay. Now in this example, you were putting down 10%. Okay. And you're at 400. So this is the one that was off. My apologies, guys. Let's calculate that. You're at 2665 and 10. So this example, you have a loan amount less than this example at 413. Why? Because you got the 3% discount. Okay. So good. Now in that example, what's the difference between payment? The difference is 2747 compared to 2665. So you're looking at about $80 a month. Okay. Now I apologize. I had that wrong the first time because I had fat fingers. My apologies. But you're looking at a loan amount of 400 in this example, a loan amount of 413. So it saves you $13,000 to wait for that 3% discount if you're putting down 10%. However, The payment per month is about roughly $80 or so. Okay, so $80 is nothing to sneeze at, but guys, an $80 situation, how long would it take you to recuperate $80 if you had some appreciation in the house that you purchased over the next 3 years? In other words, if you went down 3% and you saved that, awesome, and you timed it perfectly, how much longer would it take you if you didn't time it perfectly and you just bought today to recoup that appreciation on the house that you purchased, right? That's going to be somewhere about a 1% appreciation number. So you're looking at a net 4%. Would the house that you bought today possibly appreciate 4% over the next 3 years? Probably it's likely that it will. It's likely that it will, okay? Because again, you look at the Cronfer report right here, and the median on the appreciation rate over the last 25 years has been 4.65%. So could you earn 4% over 3 years, averaging like 1.25% per year? Probably going to happen. So this is the point I'm making when you're trying to time the market, okay? So if you're trying to time the market, maybe it's not the best thing to do. That doesn't mean you jump out and just buy a house. You want to be timely on this as much as possible for your specific situation. And that's what we're here to help you to do. Now let's jump into some more data, okay? Because this is fun. Cronfer Market Index has us currently declining. We're now at 77.1% on the edge of the Cronfer Market Index overall. Look at demand, guys. Demand, not so hot, right? Continues to decline. And this time of year, it should be going up right here. And it's just very, very low in the 80 percentile, okay? So that's not good at all. But yet, meanwhile, supply, which we'll talk about here now, continues to skyrocket. Look at this, guys. There it goes. So now let's check out supply here. Come back to that in a second. Look at active listings. You can see it right here. Right here, this trend is going up. Now, obviously, I know this is compressed over many, many years, but you can see 24 to 25, it's going up, okay? Active listings are increasing. Now, month supply, you can see this little graph right here over the past month or two, it's increasing. Why? Because supply is increasing on active listings and demand is not meeting the supply. It is weak. And therefore, you have a situation where month supply is increasing. It's not terrible though at 3.4 months, guys. Typically, a 6-month supply pattern will show a somewhat favorable buyer's market, but we're in a favorable buyer's market today already with 3.4 months supply. Now, come over here. You can see the active listing on the weekly count is right here, and it's pretty obvious the graphic where we stand. So you can see right here, we are increasing the active listings, but the demand continues to be low, and that's why listings are continuing to increase. Now, we think, and what should happen is that as we go into summer, this should decrease like this. It should go down a little bit, right? And not continue to increase because people typically don't put their homes on the market in July in Phoenix. Some people do if you have to sell, but the average person will not do that. So that's what we anticipate seeing, which is much needed relief for the other sellers who are trying to sell. Now, if you come here, you can see by price point. This is interesting, right? This active listings map. This is kind of cool because it shows the price point across the valley. Now, I know it's a lot of dots because there's a lot of listings, but you can see the higher price points are in the orange and the red, and the lower price points are in the blue and the green. Okay, so you can see kind of where the more higher price point homes are currently at across Maricopa County. Now, if I come back here, I'm going to show you this right here because this is interesting. A lot of red. These are the suburbs, the top 17 suburbs across Phoenix, and you can see that the trend is not our friend and things are going in the wrong direction, just as the Cronfer report said. Again, they continue to see a possible decline over the next 3 months and heading towards the end of the year is the prediction right now. But a 20% decline, that's probably a little too much of a clickbait title because the data does not support that. All right, now let's go into where we stand today. All right, this is interesting supply side. I'll leave that alone for today. But here's a couple of interesting articles from Yahoo Finance. Homeowners are painting and gardening, but big dollar projects are not happening. Why? Because their belts are tightening. Home Depot seeing their stock reflective of that not going in the right direction. Okay, that's an interesting article. Another one here, which I thought was interesting too. Home sellers are setting aspirational prices. Buyers have other ideas. In other words, home sellers, guys, are still in that mode of thinking, I can get the price I want, or my neighbor just got 6 months ago, or 10 months ago, or 15 months ago. But guys, let me tell you a little secret. One thing we do as a real estate team is what we advise our clients on is when you're in a market like this where it's very, very, very buyer friendly. If you are looking to sell a house, you really have to now start putting more weight on the comparables that are under contract / pending and active on the market, more so than sold. Why? Because the market is changing, and if prices are declining, you can't expect to get what your neighbor just got 6 months ago. I mean, unless your neighborhood is different. Every neighborhood is different. I'm saying overall, the general trend of the Phoenix overall market. Okay. Hopefully we're clear on that. All right. Now, a couple more articles here. This is interesting, guys. You can see a couple of things in the United States housing market. I think this is macro. This is good to know. Median sale price in America is 438, 466. And again, in Phoenix, we're 459. Okay. But America is 438. So it's a delta of about $20,000 difference from the median home sale prices. Number of homes sold, you can see that 415,000. Okay. And then number of newly listed homes, 885,000. But where does that put us in comparison? Okay. Well, you can see the article, the title of this article is home sales are at a 6-month low in terms of the number of transactions. So you can see the path right here. Remember 22, the good old days, good old years, right? 21, 22. Look at those number of transactions. And we are now down to 4.1 million in terms of where we're tracking. So that puts us back to where we were. Look at this, guys. Look at this. January 2012. Okay. In terms of yearly home sales, that's where we're on track to do. So lowest level since October 2024 on an annual adjusted rate, that's down 0.2% from a month earlier and down 1.1% from a year earlier at this time. Interesting. So we know the trend. We know kind of where we're going. What are your thoughts on this? I would love to know what you're thinking. So, Rick, I appreciate you popping in here. What will summer season bring? Well, I can tell you on average, Rick, it doesn't bring a plethora of home buying activity. Typically, July is going to be our slowest month of the year in terms of activity. In other words, active contracts written, and therefore August in Phoenix is typically the month that has the lowest amount of home sales per year. Because again, the activity in July was weak. Therefore, it's reflected on a 30-day escrow cycle when properties actually close with the county of Maricopa. That happens in August, and therefore the numbers in August are pretty low. But then you see school starting for most schools. School starts in August here in the Phoenix area. There are some schools go year-round, but Phoenix does. Mostly schools do start in August, and therefore you start seeing people getting back to normal routines, no longer vacationing, things of that nature. Sports, school are back in full swing, and then people get back to doing their normal business of potentially buying a house or selling a house, things of that nature. So again, it starts to increase and get better as you head towards Thanksgiving. Then, of course, December with Christmas, it starts to fall off a little bit. That's the seasonal cycle of the real estate housing market in Phoenix. So now when we have a weak May, it doesn't set up for a good summer because typically May is a pretty good month, honestly, a really good month actually, as one of the months of the year that has good transaction count. Not this year. So not setting up to be great, unfortunately. So if you're looking to buy, the summer season could be, as we said, a good time to time the market as best as you possibly can and buy a good deal. But already right now, buyers have a lot of leverage. They can call their shot for the most part in terms of negotiating terms on the purchase contract today. All right. Now, a few more things I want to share, guys. We have a couple of development things that we always want to cover because the development is tied to local economy and the housing market is tied to the local development, right? It all works together. So if I share my screen here and pull this up, you can see that there are 3 Arizona cities. I got to cover this. This is really good stuff that rank among U.S. best places to live. Where are those cities? Spoiler alert, Queen Creek's one of them. Okay. Now, U.S. News is the big publication, and they have a big publication around rankings for cities, best places to live, most affordable places to live, all these different categories. Well, here you go. The report ranked major U.S. cities based on value, desirability, job market, and quality of life. Queen Creek came in at number 93. Right behind them is Gilbert, then Marana, and Chandler. You know, it's funny because Queen Creek, Gilbert, and Chandler are all there in East Valley. They all touch each other for the most part, right? Except for obviously Gilbert and Chandler and Queen Creek, but they rank in the top half. Scottsdale and Sierra Vista down by Tucson and Peoria up in the Northwest Valley also made the list. So that's cool. What are the home values? You can see right here, guys. Check this out. This is interesting. Scottsdale 698. Okay, 698 for home value, And you can see the rest of them are a little bit lower, okay? But rental costs are right there. Rental costs in Queen Creek is over $2,000 now. Very similar to the Gilbert, excuse me. Now, Scottsdale is less. Why is that? Well, because Scottsdale has a lot of condos and variety of housing projects, where in Queen Creek and Gilbert, less condos, primarily, mostly single family homes. Okay. So that is the reason for that. But there's the graph right there. If you guys are looking for great places to live, according to US News Report, that's the list. But if you don't want to, if you want to skip that and just give me a call, and I can put my 20 years of selling real estate right here in the Phoenix area to work for you, boots on the ground, in the trenches, I would love to have that conversation with you. Give me a call, 480-660-5974. Now, a couple more things, and we are out of here, guys, and get you back onto your day. Look at this, guys. We are becoming a huge city officially now, because why? We have our first nonstop flight to Asia. Phoenix does. I'm not sure if you guys are very familiar when you talk about, international airports, and Phoenix is one of those. But in terms of a lot of Asian population, we don't have that in Phoenix like San Francisco might have, or Seattle. But maybe that will change now. Why? Thank you to Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, TSMC. Their $165 billion project in North Phoenix is raising a lot of eyebrows, clearly supplying a lot of jobs, and going to support local economy in a way we've never seen before. And they now have their first nonstop flight to where? You probably guess it, Taiwan, otherwise known as Taipei, okay? Chinese Taipei. All right, so Starlux Airlines is the airline that's going to be doing the nonstop flight, operating from Phoenix Sky Harbor to Taipei's Taiwan Airport. I have no idea how to pronounce that. I'll just be honest with you, okay? Next year. But the city of, or the country of Taipei, the government there locally has to approve this flight, which they are expected to do. But this is awesome, and they are going to add another city for a nonstop flight to Asia from Phoenix. That would be awesome, because, guys, typically we got to fly to LA to get that nonstop flight to Asia. You know what I'm talking about, you business travelers, right? And it's not the most fun thing to do. If you could fly nonstop from Phoenix, that would be much cooler. And obviously, people who make those flights live in California. They might go ahead and decide to move to Phoenix, because now they have that nonstop flight for work they can do, and have a better, maybe cost of living in Phoenix compared to LA. You guys catch my drift? That could cause additional more jobs and additional people coming to Phoenix to buy homes and further demand. We'll see. Okay. Now, another thing here, and we'll be out of here. Scottsdale. Oh boy. Their millionaire population soars, outpacing global wealth hubs. Did you know that Scottsdale now is the second fastest growing city in the world, behind a city in China, for the fastest growing millionaire population? They are adding millionaires at a higher rate than just about every other city in the world. Last year, Scottsdale total population included 14,800 millionaires, which was 125% more than just a decade earlier, and ahead of every other city in the world except for Shenzhen, if that's how you pronounce it, in China. Okay. Now, that's interesting. Now, in addition to that, it's not on the top list of, I think it's 225 cities that have the most millionaires, because it's an up and coming city. But and we're not there yet in terms of Scottsdale. But there's a lot of money being added to Scottsdale for a lot of reasons. And the number one reason of that is pretty much the lifestyle and weather. Okay. The top 50 wealthy cities, that's interesting, right? But the number 50 was Lisbon, Portugal, that had 22,200 millionaires. New York remains the wealthiest city in the world with 384,500 millionaires. All right. So that's interesting, guys. I thought that was a little tidbit of information. And guys, some development stuff is interesting, because some of you guys might come to Phoenix and you might stay here. But this resort hotel, which is one of the best ones in all Phoenix, the JW Marriott in the Desert Ridge area in North Phoenix, just got acquired for $865 million. That is, they have a lazy river. I mean, it's awesome. Don't get me wrong. It is awesome. And a great place to do a staycation, by the way, too, if you're a resident here in Phoenix in the summertime, because they're just giving out all kinds of deals. But that is a big price tag for a pretty cool resort in Phoenix. Okay. That wraps up our show today, guys. If you have any comments, please put them below. I will answer them in a timely fashion. I want to hear what you think. Maybe I'm cuckoo. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the Cromford report is wrong, because that's how you feel, and you feel it should be something different, something better. Let us know. And if you have any sources of information, I would love to see that too, because if you're thinking it, I always say this, someone else is thinking it too. So thank you so much, guys, for supporting the channel. If you don't mind liking us and subscribing, smashing that subscribe button, I'd really appreciate that. and I know others would too, because this information is good for a certain subset of people looking to know how to navigate the local Phoenix housing market, and especially in the future. Thank you so much, guys. And Phoenix, until next week, same time, same channel, 4 p.m. local on Tuesday. Keep it classy, Phoenix.